Hello, people. Thanks for joining me. Just want to apologize that I've missed a couple of days. I've just needed to take a few days break from this, if you don't mind. But we're talking about discipline in the context of wisdom. There's no wisdom without some application of the discipline principle. And Solomon is adamant about that in the book of Proverbs. But I want to just say to you what discipline is not. I don't want you to be fooled into thinking that it is something when it is actually not. Sometimes it can look so good, but miss the point completely. First of all, I want you to understand that discipline is not a thermometer for your spirituality. Disciplined people are not just impressive to look at, but sometimes we tend to measure their spirituality by their application of the discipline principles. As much as we're into discipline, you've got to be careful. It's not a thermometer. It doesn't measure your spiritual temperature. If it did, then the scribes and the Pharisees would be the hottest guy in the Bible. They would be the guys who would be applauded by God. They'd be the guys who would be most effective for the kingdom. But in fact, they did everything right, but got it totally wrong. They were so disciplined that they became legalists. They became sort of addicted to the obedience principle. And if that's not a good thing, then sometimes everything that is good can sometimes be corrupted to become bad because the motive may not be what it needs to be. The scribes and the Pharisees, they were the ones who abided by the discipline of the law, the discipline of the Sabbath day, the discipline of poverty, and the discipline of the priority of giving and tithing and fasting and all those beautiful, we call them disciplines, but they did them all for the wrong reason. We know how Jesus pointed this out so often to the scribes and the Pharisees, how they were like whitewashed sepulchres. They looked great on the outside. They did everything correctly in a sense, but inside they were just a bunch of dead bones, and they, in a sense, stank. And Jesus could not bear the hypocrisy of something that is internally bad, but yet externally it looks like it's got its act together. Jesus pointed out very often to the scribes and the Pharisees that wasn't cool. And so we cannot measure our spirituality by how well we abide by the principles of Scripture. Sometimes we do that. I've tended to do that. I think if I've had all my daily devotions and if I've prayed and if I've worshipped and if I've been to church and even if I've shared the gospel with people, I tend to think, man, I'm on a spiritual high. And I might be, but there's a chance I may not be, because it can so easily be wronged and corrupted. You see, spiritual temperature is not measured by how well you abide by the principles. You see, spiritual integrity is far more than that. Spiritual integrity has a root founded in a relationship with God, that the obedience to spiritual principles comes as a result of the root of our love for Jesus. That's why we do it. Not to impress people, not to try and make a statement that we're better than others, or that we've got our spiritual act together, which was like the scribes and the Pharisees were doing, but simply it's the fruit of a great relationship with Jesus. We love to do it. We love to read the scriptures. We love to fellowship. We love to worship, simply because it comes out of a relationship of love with God himself, his love for us, and obviously our love for him. And so be careful that we don't just make a god of the spiritual disciplines out there and think that the more I obey them, the more impressive to God I might be. You can fool us, you can fool me, but you can't fool God. There's a frightening passage in Matthew chapter 7 that says this, that not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Many will say, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we drive out demons? Didn't we perform miracles? But at the end of the day, Jesus is sadly going to have to say, hey guys, you look great, but I don't know you. I don't know you at all. You did the disciplines, you did the rituals, you did everything right, but you got it all wrong. You did it all right, but you missed the point completely. Check yourselves out today, as I do too, to say, why am I doing the things that I do? Why do I elevate the laws and the principles of God? Is it because I want to impress others? or appease my social conscience or appease a guilty conscience at that. Why would I do that if it's not for the purpose of an outworking of a great relationship with God? It would be tragic, people, if you arrived at heaven one day and in the separation of the sheep and the goats that we read about in the book of Matthew, you find yourself a goat and you say, Lord, but I bleated like a sheep. I looked like a sheep. I did the things that sheep do. And God will say, you did everything good, but you missed the point. Make sure today, in this warning of Proverbs, that we have a great relationship with God. Don't seek after the disciplines, seek after God Himself, and the disciplines will automatically flow. Think about that. You have a good day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.